The list of Trump administration officials that has become infected in the past 2 weeks by COVID has increased by at least one, with Stephen Miller, one of his top aides and the progenitor of any number of cruel and inhumane Trump administration policies, has apparently been infected with COVID, saying, "Over the last 5 days, I have been working remotely and self-isolating, testing negative every day through yesterday. Today, I tested positive for COVID-19 and am in quarantine." At least 10 others, like in the administration, have gotten sick in the past week or so. He's also the latest member who was prepping the president for his debate. So if you didn't like that debate performance, to some extent, Stephen Miller's responsible for that. And so we don't, again, with all of these, we don't know for sure where or how or when he was infected, but it is possible it was during that debate prep with President Trump. So now he does have it, JR.
Well, I don't know, that was just my mindset, but I was like, that kind of makes sense. I was expecting this name last week, honestly, as close as he is, as you pointed out, and as how much, he writes his policy and his speech and his approach to everything that he does is Stephen Miller, especially immigration things. So I honestly, I think maybe he was concerned, or at least figured this last week. That's why he said he's been isolating, because I think he kind of knew this was coming down. It's a little impossible not to be in the line of this. And also, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm too negative or too cynical, but I think maybe he already knew even before this. Why would he say so beforehand? And maybe there's a calming period where he thinks it's easy for him to say it. It doesn't really matter if he's got it or when he's got it, because I don't know, he's not the president, even though he's in his ear. But this is just, this checks. This all checks out. His wife had it, I think, earlier this year as well.
It was a couple months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So all this falls into place. I was actually surprised that he didn't really get it from her before, unless they don't really.
Yeah, he was lucky. He was lucky, obviously, anybody's at risk. Yeah, his wife has already gotten over it. She notably in the past 24 hours mocked Kamala Harris for wanting to be protected against coronavirus during the debate tonight. She already had it. She was lucky enough apparently to have a mild case and get through it. And now she has turned and she is mocking other people for not wanting to get this fatal illness. Now Stephen Miller has it. Just gonna give you a little bit of background on Stephen Miller over the past couple of years.
For those of you that don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. But let's just go through a few things that are directly relevant to this. Miller, who has become one of the highest profile White House advisors, in part because of his hardline immigration views, has championed the president's message that the coronavirus pandemic doesn't represent an outsized threat to the US. Leading the writing team that crafted Trump's final Republican National Convention speech, Miller helped put forward a misleading message from the president that predicted a quick resolution to the ongoing crisis using dubious claims and figures. That now looks even crazier in hindsight, since the biggest hot spot in the country appears to be the White House. Mr. Miller pushed for invoking the president's broad public health powers back in 2019 when an outbreak of mumps spread through immigration detention facilities in 6 states. He tried again that year when border patrol stations were hit with the flu. When vast caravans of migrants surged towards the border in 2018, Mr. Miller looked for evidence that they carried illnesses. He asked for updates on American communities that received migrants to see if new disease was spreading there. So he was very interested in the spread of disease because it would help him to push his incredibly hardline, cruel immigration policies. He is considered one of the people who birthed the no exceptions, separate families, doesn't matter if it's an infant or a toddler, separate those families permanently if necessary. And he was willing to use concerns about disease to push for that. When it comes to the coronavirus, the messaging is all, nobody needs to worry about this. It's not a big deal. Certainly don't blame the president if it goes poorly. Oops, everyone, including myself, now has coronavirus. So look, obviously, like with everyone, like I said, I don't wish coronavirus on my second worst enemy, just the first. So hope that he gets better and more importantly, doesn't spread it to more people. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of them probably will because they just don't take it seriously. Even after this spread of coronavirus through the White House still doesn't seem to be taking it seriously. Trump is walking around without a mask and all of that.
Stephen Miller seems to have learned the one lesson that I think he learned last year when he did some news appearances, and every time his face appeared on anyone's TV screen, there was a general gag sound that came from the entire American people. They were like, "Oh my God, who is this guy? And why did they put him on TV?" Everything he says is cringeworthy, is horrific, and shows how bad of a guy he is. Like he's not good at hiding how evil he is. Like most of them can, and Trump has this weird appeal to his base. They love how horrible of a guy he is, but Stephen Miller doesn't even have that. So as soon as he looks up, people go, "Oh my God, like that's the bad guy." Like it's like the villain in the movie. You see it right away. So I haven't seen him on TV since probably last year, and he does seem like a background type of guy. He's good at injecting his hatred and fueling the president to carry out that hatred without actually having to put his face and his name to it directly. So I think he's good with sitting back and being isolated and quarantined for a bit while still continuing to push the hatred. Because just because this guy has the virus has no effect on what he's doing to affect his president. He's probably still having plenty of conversations and totally pressure on him to do what he's going to be doing.
Well, and Trump clearly still trusts him on these topics. I mean, the separation crisis and all of that hurt Trump in the public's eye. It's one of the reasons 2018 worked out the way it did. But they didn't jettison Stephen Miller. They've lost like 2/3 of the original 2016 team, but Stephen Miller is still around. I agree, he's very much behind the scenes. I think partially it's because while he is persuasive to Donald Trump, most warm-blooded mammals recoil. There's something unnatural about him. It also could be, I was just reminded in the Twitch chat by Rederico that you might recall, I'm just saying it is a fact, that he once went on TV having painted hair on the front of his head. I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying that is literally a thing that happened on a major news network. Obviously, hope that he gets well, from the COVID, but that was a little bit weird. Anyway, with that said, and much more importantly, again, I say this every day this week, but it is one thing that these Trump administration officials are getting COVID. Many of them supported the president's irresponsibility. They didn't seem to be bothered by it much at all. I feel far worse for those who have to work at the White House. The housekeepers, catering staff, security, all of that, because they're not getting contact tracing to protect them. Many of them, they're not gonna get flown to Walter Reed. They're not gonna get, full write-ups on the New York Times, but they are every bit as important, and I would argue far more important than any of these other individuals that we are talking about.
Yeah, it's an illustration of just how we care about, the hierarchy of who we care about and who we don't.
Yeah. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.